Our story begins on a cool autumn day in the Green Mountains of Vermont, Rutland County to be precise. The 14th state to the Union is known for its amazing maple syrup and foliage that is breathtaking. That's when the two teenagers tell Paul Bartholomew that they were on a hike through the woods when a creature about 7 feet tall and roughly 300 pounds broke through the brush up ahead of them. And it was at a brisk pace when one of them yelled out, "What the fuck is that?" We are going to continue this journey of amazement through the many, and I mean many, documented sightings and encounters with this phenomenon. Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yeti, Wendigo, and Wildman have been some of the names given to this particular species so far in the books that I've been reading to research for a bigger, more in-depth video on this subject. Right now, I wanted to touch on a few of the sightings and encounters that occurred right around where my grandparents had a home and some land, and incidentally is where I spent most of my summers growing up. I know I was one lucky SOB, and I'm always grateful for the time in the woods upon Sumner's Mountain. Now let's get to it, and I'll save the most incredible one for last because damn. This first one had these two teenagers running for their lives after one of them bellowed out his question. The creature just looked at them and they ran to a nearby relative's home, never a glance back. Lucky? Or was it Bob Squatch and he couldn't be bothered? This next sighting, in January of 1999, takes place right in the town that my grandparents had their home. A hunter on a mountain in the vicinity of Ludlow in central Vermont said he was walking in heavy cover with a friend when he spotted a huge creature 30 yards away. His first reaction was that it was a moose, and he tried to make sense of the encounter. While watching it, he said he suddenly got wind of a terrible smell, unlike anything I've ever smelled. The creature was partially obscured by a white pine tree, so he couldn't see the face. Peering at it through his 5x rifle scope, he got a good look at the body. The top of its shoulders were 6.5 feet off the ground. He observed its large black head from the back, and it walked away in huge strides. The creature seemed to be covered with a reddish-brown fur that was matted in places and appeared to be almost as if it was shedding. Large, human-looking footprints were found several minutes later after he checked the area. The hunter was surprised by the creature's agility, climbing a ridge so steep it would have been very difficult to follow. It strided up that slope, and it was easily 6 feet high. The pair decided that it would be morally wrong to track and shoot the creature. You'll see this is a reoccurring theme in a lot of the sightings where they just get him in their sights and say, yeah, nah, I can't do it. Our next one takes place in September 1999. A man was retiring to bed in his residence in a heavily forested area on the outskirts of Rutland around 2 a.m., so a night owl, when he heard heavy breathing and heavy footsteps on the road outside. I looked out my window, and at first I thought I saw a large man in the road, but as his eyes adjusted to the dark, he could clearly see a creature about 7 to 8 feet tall. He estimated the weight between 300 and 375 pounds. I was staring at it, and it locked eyes with me, and then I could see portions of its face by the moonlight. Its face had the characteristics of a gorilla, but sort of human too. The figure then turned around and walked up the hill, swinging its arms in a way that wasn't normal before disappearing. This too is another reoccurring theme you're going to get, where it looks very human, but it walks weird. In May of 2000, two cousins were visiting their grandparents who own a wilderness cabin at Marshfield in northeastern Vermont when they decided to take a drive with their ATVs on an old logging road. The pair were forced to stop when a fallen tree blocked the path. As they were turning the vehicle around, they saw a hairy 7-foot-tall creature rise up and take off into the woods. Now this last one we're going to look at is pretty interesting. Early on the morning of January 1st, 2005, a trucker from Quebec was crossing into the border of Orleans County where he and his Vermont girlfriend were going to visit her residence. As they were driving south along Route 243 near Troy, they saw what at first looked like a bear in the road. The man flicked on his high beams, but he couldn't see much as the defroster was not working properly and the night was frigid. He stopped his vehicle in the middle of the road to remove a chunk of ice that had accumulated on his driver's side windshield wipers. I can sympathize with that. I've had that happen a few times. As he opened the door, he slipped and fell on the ice. At the same time, his girlfriend started yelling at him to look at the bear that was walking on 2 legs. Oh my God, could you imagine? His reaction was to start blinking his eyes as the creature kept moving towards his truck. illuminated in the headlights. He scrambled back inside and they locked the doors. He said the creature stood 7 feet tall and weighed close to 500 pounds and was visible in the truck headlights for the next several minutes. First, he said it covered its eyes with one arm. This arm, not a paw, was black, shagged hair all over and thick, but it was hard to make out small details because of the icy windshield. The man, at the prompting of his companion, wanted to drive on, but hesitated as the thing remained in the middle of the road. After dimming the headlights, the creature lowered its arms and proceeded to stare at them for several minutes. So now I'm guessing that Bob Squatch was contemplating, is this worth the headache? The witnesses were worried about the health of the thing given the cold, but eventually drove off fearing for their safety. You have to believe me, there were no clothes on this man thing, and on the ice the thing was barefooted. The creature had thick bear-like hair with some bare spots of hair here and there. At this point, his girlfriend tooted the horn, oh my God, causing the creature to jump several feet straight up in the air before it walked gimpy-like over to the other side of the road with its back to us. He also noted that the buttocks were mammoth and that it walked funny, peculiar. So now, once again, we're hearing that Bigfoot got a badonkadonk and its ass was hanging out of the back. But could you imagine? His girlfriend's like, come on, we gotta go. Oh, they are so lucky. Because if Bob Squatch got pissed, man, that would be the end. Imagine trying to explain that one at wherever the next life is, the pearly gates, and you're like, yeah, well, it was a 7-foot man in the road. Man, beast thing, Wendigo, Yeti, whatever you want to call it. Bigfoot. I'm going with Bigfoot. And she had no patience because she wanted to get home. She's like, come on, get out of the road, buddy. Anyway, if you stuck around this long, I thank you. My mother thanks you. If you're new here, we cover a lot of Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder, and we recently added Orcs Reading Corner, which will cover a vast variety of books. And we'll have another episode of The Misadventures of Mad Dog and Coco coming real soon. All sorts of other nerdology and cryptids, folklore, myths, legends. And speaking of legends, I'd like to thank AJ Pickett for sending love our way. Once again, if you're new here, please tickle that subscribe, smash that like, just like she smashed that horn to scare the shit out of Bigfoot. And we'll see you real soon with some more monstery goodness. Until then, stay frosty and aware, my beautiful people. Thank you. Thank you very much.